You know, I love movies. Hang on. What I mean is, I love movies, especially when they're shown in correct aspect ratio. What's aspect ratio? Hey everyone, I'm Skullman. You want to know what aspect ratio is? In simplest terms, it's the size of the picture for the film. The first number is the width of the screen, and the second number is the height of the screen. There's a number of mathematical equations, but when you get down to it, that's the basics of aspect ratio. Thanks, Skullman. But that's not all I'm talking about today. You see, even though a movie can be shot between 4:3 or 16:9 or even the Hollywood standard of 2.39:1, no matter the aspect ratio, whatever it's filmed in, that's how it's shown in theaters. For instance, the original Star Wars was shot in a 2.35:1 ratio, and on the big screen it was seen as such. And that's good and dandy. You know, I love bigger aspect ratios. I love that they stretch out and they show way more screen, much more detail, much more epicness, especially for an adventure like Star Wars. But then came around this thing called home video. Yeah. Until the 21st century, most TVs were a plain old square, 4:3 ratio. Nothing wrong with that, so a lot of TV shows were filmed in a 4:3 ratio. But when home video came around in the 80s on VHS, Betamax, or whatever obscure thing you had, there was this plague that shoppers spread to the market. They wanted their TV screen to be filled up. Why was there complaining? Well, take Star Wars 2.35:1 ratio and put it on a square screen. There you go, you can see the whole feature, but there are two black bars on both the top and bottom, and the image becomes a lot smaller, especially if your square TV is already small. So then a thing came around called pan and scan. What is pan and scan? Well, it's taking something that isn't 4:3 and making it 4:3. For instance, if I was to put this show on a square TV, they would have to shrink the screen down to a square. I mean, look at it, you can't even see my hands anymore. Sure, you can get your TV screen filled, but you can't even see all the movie. And yes, if character dialogue happens on the edge of the screen because the rest of the screen is showing off the beautiful scenery, well, the pan and scan will square in the dialogue characters, but everything else will be cut out. Now, luckily for early century films, they were already filmed in a 4:3 ratio, so all of their releases had no strings attached. But for all of us who love Star Wars, we could only watch a square one of it. I don't even know how they dealt with Kubrick films. He changes the ratio for every one of his films. Now, of course, Laserdisc came around, which was pretty much to compete with VHS. Laserdisc players were made for 4:3 TVs, and a lot of discs had the original aspect ratio. How was this possible? Well, they would take the image and place it on a 4:3 square film, which would then transfer to the square television, having all the original material from the theatrical release. And for all that work that the grandfather of DVD did, guess how much they got repaid? Barely anything, because no one bought Laserdisc because they were overly expensive. I mean, it kinda sucks because that was a film lover's dream. But some VHSs did over time make special edition versions that had the original aspect ratio, called widescreen editions, because the screen is wider and fatter and better. My examples I happen to own is The Lost World and The Usual Suspects. On an old wooden TV or whatever you have, you could play these and it would appear in original aspect ratio. So nice, VHS beat Laserdisc in the fight, but VHS saw some good in Laserdisc. And what's even better is that with a widescreen HD TV, if you happen to still watch VHS like myself, you'll see that you can zoom in the picture to fit the screen. So there you go. I can watch The Usual Suspects in original aspect ratio on a widescreen TV on VHS, besides maybe the quality being a little distorted, but it's already distorted from being a VHS. Ah yes, The Usual Suspects. What an overrated bore fest. Then finally, the next best thing in home media came, called DVD. Which, it was pretty nice, but the only problem was, in the early days of DVD, there were still square TVs, so a lot of DVDs would do pan and scan. What's worse is a lot of early DVDs were really bad at doing the widescreen setting. First, you could get the DVD and right on the disc, decide if you want full or widescreen, like Monsters Incorporated. Then there was the double-sided discs. In later years it was done to get more special features, but mostly this was done to give the decision between either a full screen or widescreen version. Both versions were on different sides, like Rocky for instance. Sometimes they would give two discs like in the Finding Nemo DVD, but the worst was when they tried to sell different versions of the movie on separate cases. One would be widescreen and one would be full screen. So Film Logics would get the widescreen and the consumer parents and what have you would get the full screen. I know my mom did. Just look at all these full screen movies I have. Nothing wrong with it. They didn't know over time they'd get all these widescreen TVs, but now during clearance sales, sometimes I'll accidentally be duped into buying a full screen version, like I recently did with Anchorman and Return of the King. Nowadays, people who bought a lot of full screen movies own a widescreen TV and will just stretch the image out to fill the screen. Why? It makes everyone look fat. So literally, instead of having widescreen the whole time, we had people complain so they could make the screen have less, and now we are stretching out the less. Right from the beginning, why couldn't like movie consultants or whatever you have just decide on one basic formula? Why? Now we have a consumer mess. Some of these earlier DVDs will just be put in a new case. I got the original Batman. The case looks new, and obviously it is new. Why? Because originally, Warner Brothers released everything in these cardboard plastic things. So I found out it's a double-sided disc. One side is widescreen. I put that side in, and there it is, Batman. And it's 16:9, fits my screen, so no problem. I also got an older version of Goodfellas, and I put it in, and it fits. Or so I thought. It had black bars on the top and bottom, and their faces didn't look too chunky, so I thought it was fine. But now I found out that Goodfellas is a 1.85:1 ratio, so the screen shouldn't have had bars that thick. The problem? Well, I changed my TV's ratio to 4:3, and get this. It looks really small, but that's the original aspect ratio. The DVD was purely made for 4:3 TVs because they put the 1.85:1 image on a 4:3 film. On my widescreen TV, in order to fill up the screen, the 4:3 image has to stretch along with the 1.85:1 image, so the image becomes a little squished. What the heck? I have the same problem with Rocky, but I'm not gonna watch it that small just because it has original aspect ratio. What a joke! The Star Wars unedited versions were to be re-released on DVD for all those who complained about the special editions. People bought them, and for those who had 4:3 TVs, they loved it because it was unedited and widescreen. But people with widescreen TVs had a problem. They had to zoom in the picture just to see if it fills up the screen. Worse yet, they can't see the subtitles anymore because they are projected in the 4:3 black bars that are hidden when in widescreen. Just imagine if my show was put on a 4:3 film, then there were subtitles on the bottom, then you zoomed it in because you wanted my whole face on the entire screen, and then you couldn't see the subtitles anymore. I mean, what's the point? And worse yet, there's not going to be a better release in Star Wars for like ever. I mean, everybody wants the unedited versions, but there's no way to get them. I mean, with Goodfellas and Rocky, I can go buy a new version any day I want. There's better versions, they even got Blu-ray now. But with Star Wars, that's the only unedited version that's on DVD. That's all that there's gonna be. In later years, the problem was finally solved. To not only give out widescreen versions for everyone who owned a widescreen TV, but to also not put fake black bars in it. On old DVDs, if the height was a bit smaller than 16:9, they would still put the image on a 16:9 film. But now they just put the original transfer and the TV and DVD player will do the math. And of course, the crowning achievement of home video, there came Blu-ray, which is really nice. Everything's in the original aspect ratio, no matter how small or how large, no bullcrap. And what's nice is really old films are finally being seen the way they were originally intended. Now, a lot of movies are going digital for the computer, having original aspect ratio, and as nice as that is for on the go, I don't plan to go completely digital on movies. There's just something about having your own hard copy of a movie, especially if that movie is one of your favorites. No matter VHS, Laserdisc, DVD, or Blu-ray, all the formats are products of the time and are still great to own today, no matter the inconvenience. Point is, I love how far the medium has come, and I look forward to what will top Blu-ray. Until then, watch out for those full screen editions. I'm the Cinephile, see you later. Alright, Ernest, let's play some more mini desktop racing. Oh, by the way, you're squishing a widescreen image into a full screen image. I'll try to fix it right now. You see? There you go. How do you pay attention to stuff like that? Besides, this game sucks. Ha! He thinks he'll stop us, doesn't he? Doesn't he? Huh? Huh?
guess.
Well, now that I finally got my new hand, this season shall be his last.
Season?
By the way, do you notice this world shrinking at all?
Oh no, the screen is squishing and we're maintaining aspect ratio.
Well, like my old master said, a day of change will come with a change of screen, and then we will finally kill the Cinephile! Ha ha ha!
Master who?
Exactly! Master Who! We must visit him!
Who?
That's right!
This is DVD. And this is what happens when you watch DVD. It's a movie on a disc the size of a CD. The picture is twice as sharp as VHS. The sound is infinitely clearer. It looks and sounds like you're at the movies, but you can experience it at home. Not to mention, you can watch it in widescreen. Listen to audio...